That's where we're going.
Back in your lives, on your screens and in your ears, welcome back to Papa G's house. We have two of the hardest working musicians out there, I think, here in John Shaban and Ryan McArthur from the Shabs. How you doing, dude?
Good, dude.
Dudes.
Tired.
Yeah.
Tired.
Yeah, good.
We
What's
worked
been
too
going
hard.
on? What you been doing in the last couple of weeks?
No, actually, the last couple of weeks have been the most chilled weeks we've had in like a year and a half. But just in general, I was just joking because we work so hard. You said you at least
Well, I
you
mean,
think
I
so.
can imagine you tired, dude.
Well,
Because,
I mean, either we
I just came from the gym.
do work hard, or we're really good at giving off the illusion that we work hard.
Yeah.
Either way, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, judging by your social media and shows worldwide, you would beg to differ. But tell me, can you hear us at the back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when was that album in the making? When did you guys start working on it?
So last year we released a split record with Rambling Bones.
Okay.
Some of our best friends from Joburg. And as we fit, that was like a piece of content. We just needed to get something out there because our first album was like 2 years old. And then through that recording we managed to find ourselves a full-time drummer again in John Case. And
Yes.
Naturally, when you find a new member, sound starts progressing. Like over the years, the band sound starts progressing and maturing. And then when we got back from Europe last year, we went into the festival season. When we got back, we were like, okay, cool, we need to write and record a new record. And we had a couple of the songs in the bag already, but we probably had to write like 2/3 of it still, maybe.
Yeah, I'd say there was some of the earliest, some of the songs that were on there that were written were probably written 2 years ago.
Okay.
But then the majority of them were last year.
Okay.
That were written.
Yeah.
And then,
We got a bit of an interesting history because
Yeah, I was just about to say the Shabs it wasn't a 4-piece at first, right?
No, it
was
wasn't.
first the Shabin,
yeah.
and then there was a change in name,
Yeah.
etc., etc.
Yeah, so with the Shabin started like I guess close on 7 years ago.
Okay.
And we had a full-time drummer. His name was
Okay.
Tom. And
yeah, so it was originally a trio.
Yeah.
That was the first, because it was John was doing some solo stuff, and then he wanted to do that solo stuff with a band.
Yeah.
So then it was
Yeah.
a trio.
and that got a really good kind of response, and we enjoyed it a lot. So we started separating the repertoire so that we could write as a band and
Okay.
have more kind of band material, and then I could carry on with my solo stuff.
But you guys do strip down some of your shows every now and again. Do you do the two of you,
Yeah,
upright
yeah.
bass and
So that was the thing. So we as the band started, as we started releasing more stuff and
Yeah.
getting busier, Tom unfortunately couldn't really keep up with our touring schedule, and so we started having to ask drummers like in various different places if they could please dep for him, and then he decided to immigrate. So when he did, we made the conscious decision to become a 2-piece.
Okay.
And then we were just gigging mostly acoustic, and then still collaborating with certain drummers around the country
Yeah.
and even overseas.
Yeah, we would have we had our friend Leighton in Joburg was our Joburg drummer. He's the drummer for Rambling Bones.
Yeah.
And our friend Steve, who used to drum for Sibling Rivalry and then City Ball Misers towards the end, he was their last drummer.
Okay.
And he was our Durban drummer, and then we had our friend Adam in England, who was like our UK drummer, and then Tom, our original drummer, moved to the UK, so we had another drummer.
That's crazy.
When
Yeah.
he did some Switzerland.
But
with
that's
us.
a good way to
Yeah.
work it.
And then over the years as well, Ryan's wife Sophie just kind of wormed her way into the band.
Yeah, I was like,
I saw my first time seeing you guys was the Fuzzy show.
Yeah.
And I saw that was the first time I'd seen you guys with John and what's
Sophie.
your wife Sophie.
Sophie,
Yeah.
Yeah, and she also plays that
Melodica.
Yeah, Melodica.
Originally, she joined originally we would just get her to come sing with us because obviously she would be around a lot. She used to manage our old band, Captain Stu, which John and I were in from teenagers. So she would tour with us and stuff. She's involved in the music industry, and we kind of knew that she could sing, and we would try to get her. I think on our very first EP though, we got her to sing.
Yeah.
So the very first thing we actually released, Sophie did sing on.
Yeah, yeah.
But it still took a few years to actually get her up on stage. She would come sing on that one song that she sung on, and then more and more, and then she got a little accordion.
Yeah.
And our first album had accordion on it, which was a guy called Stealth Ulvang, who actually plays with the Lumineers.
Yes, I thought I recognized
he played
that name.
accordion on the first album, and then Sophie got an accordion. We're like, oh, well, you know, just come play the accordion stuff. And then the accordion stuff kind of fell away because we just started writing in a bit of a different direction. And then she stayed on with the vocals and melodica.
Yeah,
Wicked.
and then we found John Case through the
I went to
the
school
whole
with him
process. Yeah,
back in the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. I mean, he's
And
another. We've been playing with him for
ages. You know,
Yeah.
I used to be in Armour with him back in the day. Ryan used to be in a band called Wednesday's Child.
Yeah,
with
I
him.
remember Armour. That was it wasn't Brett Allen White in
Brett
that band
Allen
as well.
White and Stephen Bulk, Dave. Yeah, it was. So we've known him for a long time, and he was just
he depped once or twice for Captain Stu when our drum. I remember the first. I think it was the first Rock in the Daisies ever.
no, it was the
Second Rock in the Daisies ever. We weren't booked, but last minute the tidal waves pulled out, and our drummer was overseas. And so, I mean, this was like the Thursday, and no, there was the Wednesday. And we were supposed to be playing on the Friday, and we just asked John Case because John had been playing with him.
They kind of gave us a phone call, and they were like, "Listen, tidal waves have dropped out of Rocking the Daisies. We need a band to play main stage slot.
Wow.
Can Captain Stu do it?" We were like, "Oh shit, our drummer's away. Yes, we'll make a plan."
It was actually quite funny. I was actually having a little bit of a bro down with my mate Jared last night, and he was like, "Yeah, bro, ask them about Captain Stu and all those."
Yeah,
talks.
I went to school with Jared, and I studied with him.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome,
Jared.
man.
I mean,
I saw Captain Stu at Synergy one year.
Yeah.
You guys did play the Synergy stage. Yeah. So,
which was it at Boschendal?
Yes.
Okay,
it was.
that's good.
Didn't you guys play
'Cause there
the
was
same
one
year,
before
one
that.
year, same year as, or was 1 year apart at least with Sabretooth?
Yeah, we played that year with Saber.
Yeah.
Played. Yes,
That
I
was-
remember that.
It was a good. That
Good
was
jaw.
a good one. That specific. Synergy
So that was at Boschendal. Then it moved
Was that
to
the one where we,
Tierwoud.
where
I
we
never
were
went to the
stealing
wind
disco
farm.
balls?
Yeah, I think it was that one.
tell me about that.
They had a whole bunch of disco balls hanging in the beer tent, and at some
Okay.
drunken point in the night, we decided it was our mission to get them. So we had this whole little operation, and some of us had to distract the security.
Yeah.
Other guys had to literally run, jump onto tables, and then grab them and pull them hard enough to come off the
Well, you can
whatever,
expect. I
the
mean,
tent.
Daisies to be Synergy to be a write-off. I mean,
Yeah, we had a good
Jeez.
jaw. And then we had to run with them as quickly away as possible and hide them in the vineyards or in the bushes and stuff. So once the security came, we would just pretend it wasn't us and then figure out how to salvage them later.
We're not painting a good picture of ourselves. So.
but what year was that though?
Ah, shit.
It was 2009 or 2008.
No, I think it was a bit later. Maybe
than that.
2012, 2011 maybe.
Sure.
Maybe a bit earlier than that.
I
Shit,
stopped
don't
going
know.
to festivals a long time ago.
Captain Stu stopped gigging in 2014.
Well,
We played our last gig in 2014. So it must have been a couple of years before that.
Wasn't it 2013 that we stopped playing? I mean, yeah.
Well,
it was,
okay, wait. The Shabs, we played our first gig at at Synergy actually.
Yeah.
But the new Synergy venue.
Oh, when it moved to Tierwoud.
Tierwoud.
That was 2012.
That was the year. Yeah, it was 2012, and that was the year that Prodigy played. And
Oh wow. Okay.
So it must have been 2010 or 2011.
yeah.
So was the Shabs kind of born out of Captain Stu, or was it just? I mean, you guys had known each other for so long, you might as well have
yeah. Well, I mean,
just got together.
The,
or
yeah, I mean,
what
how did
happened
the connection
was,
come between the two of you?
So I was playing solo gigs on the side. I was pretty new to it at that time, and then a friend of mine was organizing this charity event at Mercury, and she asked me if I could put a band together so we could have a bigger sound for the gig.
Yeah.
And I was living with Ryan and Rake, the drummer from Captain Stu at the time, and it was obviously just the most natural thing to ask them to come and play in the band, and we really enjoyed it. And then we just started kind of working on it a bit more, and Ryan Ryan was fully committed. He was also studying upright bass at the time, and I think it was the first project you were playing upright bass in.
Yeah,
besides
Peachy Keen. I think Peachy Keen I was playing in.
Okay.
But it was pretty much about the same time.
Were you in Peachy Keen?
Yeah, towards
Okay.
not from the beginning, but for about the last year or two of the band.
Okay. So you jammed with Brandon as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So
But essentially, it was very much born out of Captain Stu because that's John and I. Captain Stu started. I was 15. John was 16, and we've been in some capacity writing music together since then.
15 and 16.
Yeah.
Captain Stu started.
Yeah, because Captain Stu went
Wow.
went for about 10 years. When Captain Stu stopped when Captain Stu had its 10th birthday, I was 25. So we'd already been. That was like, you know, it was from, you know, when we launched our first album. I was 17. John must have been 18.
Yeah, Ryan was like recording during exams.
Yeah,
like
I think it was during matric and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've been writing music together since then, you know, like, and I think when we started, when Captain Stu kind of took, like, because we were very hectic, we gigged and we toured a lot, and we went overseas for
if
a
I
bit.
can recall, it was a highly successful band. I mean, you guys were doing big shows. You were on the radio.
Yeah, we did all right. We had all the things at our disposal that don't exist anymore in the South African industry.
I think we were also like we were around. That was during.
I played saxophone in Captain Stu.
Yeah.
It was during that
crazy.
MK time. You know, that MK time was huge. You know, we did a few of those MK Avant tours. Whenever we were touring to Joburg, we would be on TV doing the Studio One and that kind of platform. So I think, again, I mean, we were also a hardworking band, and you know, I think we were trying to do well, but it was also like it was a good time for South African music at the time.
Was it a ska band? No, not like it was kind of like
it was kind of a mix.
Yeah.
It was
Definitely
such a huge mix of different things.
Yeah.
Definitely like a big ska influence. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, listen. I mean, the last time I heard it, I mean, and no disrespect, like I haven't heard one in a long time.
No.
So, what genre would you? I mean, if you don't want to talk about genres, but what kind of genre would you put it in if you had to, if you were forced to?
I mean, and it was a lot of it was ska rooted. I think we ended up calling it like Afro funk ska something. It was something like that.
Yeah,
like
okay.
It is.
I like that.
it was all a mix.
Yeah.
Like Afro jazz ska funk or something. Like
Awesome.
It was something like that. Something you know, completely convoluted, and you know exactly what kids would do. Oh, let's reinvent the wheel here. Let's play 20 genres on one album.
Hey man, I'm not opposed to it. But what was I going to say? I just heard a little snippet of you studied upright bass.
Yeah.
So you studied.
So
the
when
full music
Captain
degree
Stu
and
was kind of cooling down, you know, we'd all had, because you know, like we started young. We'd been gigging since high school to sort of mid-20s. A lot of us, you know, a lot of our friends of that age were doing different stuff. We were just kind of, this band was like a big focus. So when that calmed down, like something I'd always wanted to do was pursue music, like to go study it, to study jazz. Because I didn't do music at school as like a subject. It was something I kind of learned playing with Captain Stu. That was how, you know, and
what did you play in Captain Stu?
Bass guitar.
Okay.
And then so then when it chilled out, I went to go study jazz, and I wanted to learn double bass. And when Captain Stu calmed down, like that's also when, you know, John had been writing stuff the whole time as well. We all wrote in that band as well, which is quite cool. Like there was at different points, maybe there were people who contributed different amounts, but it was a band where like there was no main songwriter. It was a big contribution of stuff.
No, that's awesome.
So then John took, you know, like I went to go study. John focused a bit more on solo stuff, and that kind of came together quite nicely because I was like, oh, I really want to be. Obviously, we had a huge history of writing music together and performing music together. We lived together as well at the time in the forest. We didn't have a street address, so we could jam music anytime, you know, whenever we wanted. There were no neighbors or anything. Yeah. So yeah, that worked out nicely. I wanted to do more upright bass. John was working on more stuff, and then after that, we then started writing again together instead of. You know, and John would then have his solo stuff, and we would write stuff together.
The one thing with you, when I see you play, is I love the style. It's just because you guys rock harmonies all the time, and I love it. That's like one of my favorite things in music is vocal harmonies, and you've got the mic right to your side, and you're going. I just love it. Like I was watching a video last night. This guy playing the upright bass and he's going dum, 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 and it was, you can't sing and play bass. it was brilliant. You should check it out. I'll send it to you if I can ever remember where I found it. But very difficult instrument to play, I'm sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not it's one you've got to give some time to. You know, like you know, it's like a horn instrument or like. you know, like you can learn to play a bit of guitar and you
Sure.
can write some songs. Like you can't just learn to play like trombone.
Yeah.
You know, for instance, it's one of those. There's just a certain amount of technique required to just make it sound even semi-okay.
It's
Yeah.
probably like, I mean, I would assume it's like fairly physically like.
I mean, you weren't exactly
Tough
playing a
as
fretless
well.
bass guitar in Captain Stu.
It's the same with
I can
horn.
just
You know,
imagine.
like, when you start playing a horn instrument, you like physically it's intense because
Yeah.
of this
And you
hyperventilation
get
all the
blisters.
time, and
You,
like,
you get your
your
mouth,
lip-
and you get
and it's quite hardcore. But once you get the technique
yeah. When you
right,
start
then
playing
you're
double
fine.
bass, you get crazy blisters all the time. I actually got a repetitive strain injury
Wow.
from playing like a lot.
I mean, practice makes perfect, I guess. I mean, I'm sure you had to pass some wily exams to get your qualifications and whatnot. That's incredible. And you also, I mean, you were part of like a metal kind of vibe back in the days. I mean, would you call that? Like
I mean, so like, I've never really been that into metal, to be honest. I mean, like, I don't mind it, and when I was like just out of high school, whatever, when I joined Armour, we were all friends already. We were friends with those guys, and I was playing violin in like.
I mean, Brett had a huge ska background too.
Yeah,
How many instruments can you play, bro?
She did not. I mean, a couple badly, but like one very well.
Okay.
well, I wouldn't even say very well. One well. But violin was actually my first instrument, and I played it through high school, and then I got into guitar, and classical guitar became my first instrument.
If you watch the first ever Captain Stu music video, John's playing violin.
Yeah. But anyway, so I was playing violin, and then Armour asked me if I wanted to come and just like play a few songs, and because for some reason the violin fits into metal somehow.
Well, they were.
And
I mean,
wouldn't
Armour
even
was quite
classify Armour
experimental
as-
too. They weren't quite as like
Yeah, I wouldn't
Captain Stu trying to push
classify
something,
them-
but they were definitely very.
I wouldn't
they were
classify them as a metal
combining
band,
a lot
for
of.
sure.
Yeah, I mean,
It was a
well,
lot
I
of
mean,
different
listen,
stuff.
Yeah.
I had only realized there was any music in the Western Cape in when was it? It was 2014. It's like the first time I started. I mean, I always knew Hogs. All my buddies they all loved Hogs, and then everybody knew Fuzzy back in the day. But like, I only realized what was out there in 2014.
Yeah, that's quite recent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So excuse my
No,
ignorance.
dude, totally.
So that's why I want to talk about it a
Yeah.
bit, because I actually saw you guys. I think you played Armchair one night, and then you played. I think you played a Trench Town gig at some stage.
Fucking thousands of them.
Yeah. But I always
Yeah.
used to go there, and John will hopefully watch this. Subscribe.
We'll make him
Down.
watch this.
I've actually got a new little icon in the bottom left of,
Nice.
of your. Oh no, bottom right. Click subscribe.
Bottom right
now.
is that side, though.
Bottom.
If you're
Oh,
watching, it's there.
one of the two.
Somewhere.
But yeah, I always knew John Case is a very talented guy when I was at school, and I don't think he finished where I was, and went off, and then he. All of a sudden, I see he's this amazing tattoo artist, and I always knew he still played drums. And then he started playing with the West Coast Wolves.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was like chuffed. I was like, I'm stoked that the guy's still pouring his heart into his passion in his artwork. Because I remember, I think he even did a mural at Ronnebosch once, where he was allowed to. I think he was a very good
Yeah.
graffiti
He's
artist.
he's a very
he's
talented
great
artist.
artist.
in general.
Yeah.
And I was stoked to see that he was still playing like music and stuff.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And now he's in Shabs, West Coast Wolves, and enjoying the fruits of his labor. It's awesome.
Yeah. He's not actually playing with the West Coast Wolves anymore.
Oh, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh shit, my bad.
Lawrence from Grassy Spark, Lawrence de Jager.
Okay.
He drums for West Coast Wolves now as well. But
Okay, that must have been recent because I.
yeah, fairly recent, like in the last year maybe. I'm not
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's short. But yeah, like I joined Armour on default basically because I was guesting with them on violin,
Okay.
and their rhythm guitarist unfortunately had to leave the band, and I was like, well, I know the songs. I'm way better at guitar than I am at violin. let me give it a shot, and yeah, it was good.
Okay.
I remember maybe like 5% of my experience in Armour because I was just drunk as fuck the whole time.
it was a messy
Good
time.
times.
Yeah.
Well,
All of us,
excellent.
like, we had such a jewel in that band. I don't understand how we lived through it, but it was, yeah, it was really fun. I mean,
That's awesome.
it was just one of those bands that, like, really, like, for some reason, just built like a very good following very quickly.
Yeah.
And it didn't explode. I mean, it was just like consistent, and we just had a lot of fun. And that was really cool. Captain Stu was the kind of band that had a strategy, and like we would like had ambition to like reach certain goals, and do things like videos and albums and all this kind of stuff. And Armour was more just like a really fun way, like more
must be really cool to have
crazy experience.
Yeah, it must be really cool to have two guys with the same like go forward. I mean, obviously the whole band, obviously,
Yeah.
but I'm just talking to you guys now with right throughout your musical career with Captain Stu going into the Shaban Shabs, where you guys will feed off each other in order to get the content out. You need to get a video done. You need to do this. You need to do that.
Well, Ryan and I, we talk about this all the time. Captain Stu, like, we did well for an independent South African band, but we made a shitload of mistakes. We were making mistakes everywhere. Ryan and I were very much the kind of driving admin force of the band.
Yeah.
With Sophie, who was kind of management, and then she would like delegate, and she would
do bookings too.
Yeah, she would bring
that
everything
kind of
together, but like behind the scenes, we were doing like most of the admin for the band. So we made those mistakes, like.
Yeah.
Which,
I mean, we weren't like the
ventured,
driving.
nothing
We weren't
gained,
like the drivers of the band, but we would take on a lot of the admin.
Yeah.
I would do like music videos and design and that kind of stuff, and some bookings. John would do most of the bookings.
Yeah.
But it was.
Yeah, and you naturally just make mistakes, and you figure out how to make less of them, and that's obviously something that we took into the Shabs as well. Like, and obviously. We've been playing now.
Like,
I mean,
just give me an
17
example.
years.
I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if I had to throw a curveball at you, what kind of mistake would you be referring to?
Touring to Australia. That was such a stupid move.
Yeah, so you
Why
did
did we
a
go to
whole
Australia?
Australian tour.
It was. I mean, it wasn't the worst tour, but it was like it's far, it's expensive. We should have just gone to Europe because it's closer. We went to Australia basically just because we really loved Cat Empire, and we're like, people there like Cat Empire. They're our favorite band.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you know Cat.
I don't. I've heard of them, but
they're super
honestly
like
couldn't tell
super
you.
genre blending, like kind of a similar setup. Like some horns. They had keyboard instead of guitar,
Yeah.
but very much like they would mix like jazz and funk and reggae and like. So we loved that. So we're like, we love this band. They're from Australia, so people in Australia must like this music, which was not a great strategy. And it's Australia's not a good like. There's a great
was that all
touring circuit.
self-funded?
Totally.
Yeah.
It was-
We did. I think we paid for that by doing this Savannah promotion where we had to dress up like lemons and play music.
Wow.
And,
No, but I mean,
It's
geez,
ridiculous.
and
if
Sophie
you-
was good at negotiating those sorts of things. She
Yeah.
was like, "Okay, cool." Then she got us like a decent payment for that. So we
But what's funny is when we went to Australia, we didn't know that job was coming. It came in while we were in Australia, actually. And then when we got back, we were like,
oh yeah,
okay,
because
shit,
we went
we're in
into debt.
now.
Yeah, we
We're
went
in a
into
lot
debt
of
to go to Australia, and then we paid it off. With
And then
that.
we like got this job within like 3 weeks of coming back, and we were like, okay.
So you, I
Phew.
mean, but now tell me about Cat Empire. Did you link up with them?
Weirdly enough, we actually managed to meet the one guy, which was pure coincidence.
okay.
Right at the end of the tour, like we had tried.
we'd finished. We'd finished all our
Okay,
gigs.
so it's
We
not
had
like
tried
you had been,
emailing
like,
them.
contacted
No,
Cat
not at all.
Empire and been
Not at
like,
all.
hey.
We were like, let's go there. Maybe there's more bands like this, and and we actually did reach out to them, and we got like some replies from like their
Yeah, they
horn
were on
player.
break. They were on a break.
I think their
for-
trombonist got back to us and said like, unfortunately, he can't make the show, but like, good luck, and those kind of things.
Sure.
And there was like a bit of contact, but then weird like vibe right at the end of the tour. Like I think maybe like our second last show or something like that.
No, we'd finished. It was our like last night of the tour.
Yeah,
we were flying
staying at
home
this,
the next day.
We were staying at this absolute disaster of a backpackers. Like it almost felt like a homeless shelter. But but it was
all the mattresses were covered in like black bags.
Yeah.
So that because obviously the bed bugs are a problem in hostels.
Sure.
But it was we were there over like New Year's, so it was Australia in like beginning of January.
It's so hot.
It's insanely hot. So you would just sweat all night, and then your sweat would just pool in this black bag.
Yeah.
So you'd just be sleeping in this like puddle of your sweat. That was the backpackers.
That's insane.
We stayed there. Well, some of us stayed there for 2 nights. Some of us stayed there for 1 night. And the first night we were like staying in this room. Then they came and they asked us, the rest of us who were staying there for the second night, if we could move to another room because they need to fumigate the room we were staying in the night before. but anyways. Like weird vibe. We were staying there, and we went next door to this bar that we were going to be playing at. We were
going to be playing at the next night.
So, okay, I know how this happened. This was like a week before the end of tour. We go to this bar for a drink because it's right next to our backpackers, and there's this girl there singing jazz, and she's handing out these little like DIY flyers, saying like her name was Joe Fabro. I remember Joe Fabro Group featuring Ollie McGill. We get this little thing, and we're like, fuck, Ollie McGill? Is that the same Ollie McGill that plays keyboard in the Cat Empire?
Wow.
She's like, yeah, he's a really good friend of mine.
Crap.
He's in town. He's guesting with me at this show that I'm playing just around the corner in like a week's time. You guys should come down. So a week later, we had ended the tour, and this was the night before we actually flew back to South Africa. So we went there, and sure as fuck, there he is. Like, you know, he was a super nice guy. We hung out with him for a bit, but his wife was like about to give birth.
Yeah,
she was like taking these pills to like induce
after the
labor.
gig. She was going to get induced for labor.
Yeah,
jeez, that's hectic.
Yeah, so he was like, I think a little bit kind of like on edge, but you know, he was such a humble dude. He was so cool. I mean, we watched him in this tiny little bar. And he just kind of sat on the subwoofer playing his keyboard and stuff. It was cool.
Amazing.
And
that gig was super instrumental for me though, like because we'd met, at the gig before we'd met Jo, who was the singer, and her bassist Zoe, who was Zoe Hopton, I think. She was a great bass player, and you know, when they'd given us these flyers, like John was saying, we're like, oh, is that Ollie McGill? And we're like, oh, you know, they knew we were stoked. We're like, this is good. You know, we bought some of our Cat Empire CDs from Just Sign.
Yeah.
And so in the intermission, Zoe was like, Ryan, like, I know you're a big fan. Like, you're welcome to take my bass and like come play a couple songs with Ollie. And I was like,
whoa.
I was so like stoked, and I was so like nervous, and I didn't know what to like, and I was like, oh, I wouldn't know what to play, and I was kind of like, because up until then, like, you know, the music I knew was like playing music in bands, so like I didn't really know how to play, like I didn't know a lot of other covers or like stuff, and so I said like, no, like, you know, I'm too nervous, I don't know what to play, like I don't know any jazz standards or whatever. And basically, like after that, I was like, I just turned down an opportunity to play live with like one of my musical idols.
But I understand.
So then I decided then, and when I got home, and I was working at an ad agency at the time, I decided when I get home, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go study jazz. And
wow. Okay, so that was like instrumental.
It had been something that, you know, it had been something that I'd always wanted to do. But when that happened, I was like, okay, I just turned down this opportunity that, like, you know, like John said, it was a little pub. It wasn't like, but personally, I was like, man, I had to say, no, I don't want to jam with like one of my musical idols, who's still, I mean, he's in the Cat Empire, which is a band full of amazing musicians.
Yeah.
He's, I would say, still the best.
I need to actually check this band.
He's a phenomenal pianist. Yeah. Like,
jeez. Well, on that note, let's take a quick break.
Sure.
We'll be back. What video do you guys want to feature? Do you guys want to?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think
let's
feature the most recent one. I guess why not?
Lesson learned.
You know? Yeah, so lesson learned.
Okay,
enjoy it.
This is Lesson Learned. It was released on the 4th of July, Independence Day, coincidentally.
Yeah. Nice.
And
Cool.
This is the Shabs with Lesson Learned.
Here's another lesson learned. Life's not quite as awesome as the movies make it out to be. At any point you might get hurt, so try and be as well prepared as much as you could ever be. We've seen the sun go down on many situations when we needed much more light to see. One day the sun will break the clouds, and we won't be as frustrated as when we couldn't help with anything. We were unstable, emotionally drained, cut out to complain. We were unable to see things were meant Of bad advice. Assume that life is awesome and then deal with the consequence. You might not fall asleep at night. At least you'll be prepared for any shit you might experience. We've seen the clouds dissolve when we rarely needed their shade to protect us from the sun. One day we'll watch those clouds reform, and we'll figure out the difference in the good and bad things we have done. We were unstable, emotionally drained, cut out to complain. We were unable to see things we're meant to see. Inhale air we're meant to breathe. Ba-ba-da-da-ba-ba-ba. Cut out to complain. We were unable to see things we're meant to see. We were unstable, emotionally drained. Cut out to complain. We were unable to see things we're meant to see. Inhale air we're meant to breathe.
All right, that was Lesson Learned by the Shabs, man. That we didn't watch it now, but I watched it earlier. Tell me about that tour, guys. I mean, was that the latest tour that you guys did in the UK?
Yeah,
No, it was just more than that. It
Yeah,
was,
Switzerland, Austria, Germany.
some of South Africa too.
yeah. It was basically a 3-month album release tour. So we launched the album on the 1st of March, and technically the tour started the night before. We played our first gig on the 28th of February, and then we toured up until like the 3rd of June was our last gig on the tour. So we did Europe for like a month, came home, did South Africa, and then we went to the UK for a couple of weeks as well. It was definitely the most intense thing we've ever done as a band.
Sure. And all 4 of you, huh?
Some of it.
Yeah, like
Again, complicated.
so the core band is the two of us and John Case on drums, and we like to always have female vocals if it's possible. Sophie has a real job, so so she's not able to tour with us most of the time. So often we've been lucky enough in Europe to have Angela from Rambling Bones.
Okay.
She's been spending some time in Europe. Her boyfriend is studying in Switzerland, so it's worked out for our last 2 European tours that she's been there when we've been there.
So it's amazing how you guys can wangle a really like fitting organizational machine so that you can like do your gigs.
Well,
and stuff like
I mean,
that.
because
Awesome.
we did the album with Rambling Bones last year, that split album, Deja Vu, and part of that tour Sophie couldn't make either because she was overseas. So you know, Ange was on the tour anyway with Rambling Bones, so she learned the stuff, and then also in Europe this year and in Europe last year, John Case's older brother, Richard Case, he's a great guitarist, and he plays pedal steel as well.
Oh, wow.
So last year he jumped on the tour. He lives in Hamburg, so he jumped on the tour last year, and we loved it so much that when we recorded the new album, we got him to we would do the songs and we'd send him a bounce and say like, send us a bunch of lap steel or lead ideas. So he recorded it all over there. Everything else was recorded in Sound and Motion here in Cape Town, but just the lead stuff. So he actually did that on the album, and then he joined us again for tour this year in Europe. And
he did some in South Africa with us as well.
Yeah, he was actually down here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like a bit of a Lego band. You
But
know?
it's also like
but I mean it works.
we kind of like, I mean, a thing that we've always liked to do, and is kind of
built an extended family.
Yeah, it's like there's a core of the band that we try, like we've got like a minimum thing that we want to do the show, but like at most of our shows, there's a song in the set where we get all of our friends to come up and sing with us.
Yeah.
So sometimes we've had like 20 people on stage with us, like singing this particular song. We've had many different guest musicians over the years, like our friend Stealth from the States. His wife Dorota played violin with us. We've had other violin players. We've over the years we've had many different horn players, all sorts. When we did the launch in Cape Town, we wanted to on this tour now we wanted to recreate some of the album stuff, and I think at one stage we had 8 people. There were 3 horns and
pedal steel.
and the pedal steel, and so we like the fact that like the Shabs is like there's like a core band, but it's also just like everyone else. Like we because of the scene we're in, like, and the way we tour a lot, but the only reason we can tour is because we have friends who let us sleep on their floor or lend us a car, or help us book a gig somewhere, or and for us it's almost like, even if those people didn't, most of them will get on stage with us at some point and sing a song, but even if they didn't, like the Shabs for us is this larger thing than just 2 or 3 or 4 of us on stage. It's big, it's a bigger thing than that for us, and it's like it's as much a part of like the music as it is just the functionality. Like we said, it wouldn't be able to do this stuff if we didn't have friends all over the world that help us. And
I think I've even seen John post on Facebook, anybody in certain area available for 2 couches or even a floor,
no,
just to put us up for the night.
It gets that real.
But I think I have legitimately seen. You have, hey?
Yeah. Okay. No, totally. I think earlier this year when we were in Europe, there were maybe two places that we just had to kind of put feelers out there to see. I think the one was in Zurich, I think. Where we landed up driving back to Bern. But yeah, we couldn't find accommodation in Zurich, so we had to drive back to Bern.
Oh, wow.
And then I think in Munich as well, we were looking for a place. But yeah, it's like, touring is not glamorous. It's not glamorous at all, It's like, I think even the better you do as a band, like maybe get slightly more comfortable.
Yeah.
But it's not a glamorous exercise.
Listen.
And like we've really been living that for the last like 3 or 4 years now. It's been very intense.
I can imagine.
Probably shaved a couple of years off our lives, but it's been totally worth it.
But at the same time, it's like these people that we meet that have become friends and family, like, because we see them now once a year, and these days you got friends in Cape Town you see once a year. They could live 2 suburbs away.
Sure.
So and every time we see these people, you're kind of so vulnerable on the road that it's like it's so great. Like now it's like our 4th time back in Prague, or somewhere in Germany, and it's like to see you've got these once a year, you're seeing these people, and it's so great.
Yeah.
It's a something that you feel super tired, and like tour can really take it out of you, but then like seeing like these friends who like you legitimately care about and you've formed these relationships with, it's really a unique thing that I think like easily negates the difficulties
totally.
of the situation.
And like we firmly believe as well, like the touring thing is like, one of the biggest mistakes we made with the Australia mission with Captain Stu is that we never went back. There's no way of measuring how, if it was worth it, if you don't go back and see like tangible growth in like in the whole thing, even if it's 4 people came to this show and 8 people came to the next, you need to go back to measure.
Yeah, it's like
your
a business
success
principle. I mean, like most businesses will have to operate for a year or 2 in debt.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
I don't know anything about business. I think I saw that on TV once.
You got to get in the red before you get.
But
to
yeah,
the green.
so like we go on these trips. We see these friends. We make new friends. We and the amazing thing about music and traveling with music is that that you've already got this big thing in common, which is like you love music, you love live music, and it's like this like-mindedness. of just like really cool, happy, like, you know, people that you bond with, like really really
because
quickly.
in general, you know, there's you sometimes go to a country and people are like, oh, I've heard people in that country are a bit, you know, X, Y, Z, whatever their preconceptions are. But generally, if you're meeting other musicians, live music fans,
it's a different story altogether.
They're, you know, in general, people who love live music are open-minded and are, you know, forward-thinking. You're not going to meet a lot of like old school, you know, conservative,
Right-wing,
nasty people.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's, you know, and the music thing, it's huge. Like John says, these people, we've got this thing in common because we've got some friends over there who are great friends who I honestly love, but I honestly can't have a proper conversation with because neither of us speak enough of the same language. But it doesn't stop you from having like a connection with these people.
For sure.
Then, you know, because you've got this music to.
So something you said earlier, so you guys do this exclusively, eh?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
We both work for ourselves, so it's easy enough to work from the road.
Okay.
Obviously, like, we got to set time aside, and you sometimes have to sacrifice some other cooler things you could be doing, I guess, if you need to work and whatever. But that downtime's actually good for you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you can't just always be on a mission.
So it must be like heavily trying to find a balance. Because if you're gonna, you've got to find that discipline to be like, okay, now I've actually got to do some other work.
The thing is, as well, with the international touring, you know far ahead. You know, like, you're not booking these things 2 months before you leave. You know, you're booking them months and months and months before.
Yeah.
A, because you obviously need to have like this strategy and this game plan, and B, because like over there, it's such a functioning industry that like if you don't get the good gigs, you miss out. You got to wait. You know, so you got to try and work ahead of the curve. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you know, by the time you leave, you've got all your shit in order. You know what's gonna happen. You know, and like you can kind of plan it out and stuff. But yeah, it's.
If you can work remotely, though, the thing about tour is there's always work that can be done, you know, for the band, like you know, working on new songs or videos or designs for posters or things, or organizing the next tour. But in reality, there's a lot of doing nothing on tour. So if you can work from anywhere and you have a laptop, like, you know, there's a lot of you get to the club at 4 or 5, and then maybe you sound check at 6, and then maybe you play at 10. There's a lot of doing nothing in between that. So, you know, luckily the two of us can balance like what we need to do, but, you know, can fit it into that time. And then with JC, he will often tack on before the tour or after the tour. He'll stay on and do some tattooing work.
Wow.
So he can't obviously he can't do it while we're on tour, but either, you know, he can maybe go before us and tattoo for a bit, or stay on after us and tattoo for a bit.
And essentially, because I mean, tattoo industry, the nature of it is like, at the end of the day, he is his own boss. You know, like he obviously works and he's based at a studio, but he can say, okay, guys, like, there's no formal like kind of HR like, you know, let me put my leave application in and see what happens, you know. So he as long as he, and again, because we're all planned so far in advance, he can line it all up. And, you know, we're trying to get way better at that as a band, like not just throw things on our plate for the sake of it, and try map out months you know, in advance, so that we can find this balance, you know, which is.
Speaking of tattoos, you've got a couple.
I've got a handful,
Has he tattooed any of yours?
Yeah, he's done a lot of my tattoos, John.
Wicked.
Yeah,
okay, I just want a random question. Random. I'm not going to ask you to show me, but
I think he did.
That's
he
pretty
did
cool.
one of mine. I think.
That's it's like an utmost trust that you have in an individual. But I mean, he is absolutely amazing. I mean, I've seen his work, and it's just phenomenal.
John has definitely had far less trustworthy people tattooed over the years.
Definitely.
But I mean, the last time I saw you, I think we were both at our friend Chantal's birthday the last time I actually saw you properly, and you weren't as full as you are now, yeah.
Yeah. I've had more time on my hands, I guess. No, yeah. I mean, I love tattoos. I love
for
everything.
sure.
So
for sure.
Yeah, we keep joking how we're just gonna set him up at the merch stand. It's like you can
Set
buy
him up. It's like
vinyl, you can buy
he's your guinea
T-shirts, you
pig.
can just get a tattoo. Although I mean that kind of thing is highly questionable, but it's kind of a joke.
So
but
have you
it'll
done
be-
that before? Just said like, oh, there's a tattoo artist, because they do that every now and again, eh?
No, I haven't done that at a gig
Okay.
and stuff. But I mean, one of my favorite artists, Frank Turner. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Frank Turner.
No.
He does like quite a lot of that stuff. Like if he's doing like a big kind of like flagship show or something that's like a big achievement for him, he'll include it as like part of his backstage ritual after the gig. He'll walk off stage and get tattooed straight away with like some sort of little memento from the show.
Sure, that's incredible.
Yeah, but I mean that's like when we get there one day.
So one thing that I wanted to chat to you guys about that's always struck me is you guys have always got very phenomenal artwork.
This guy.
And the Shabs t-shirt, I think it was the first EP that you guys had. Not the first EP, it was very beautiful illustration with this. I think there was a cigarette and a dagger or something to that.
Oh, the folk is dead with the guy getting stabbed in the eye with the harmonica.
Folk is dead. That artwork for me was absolutely phenomenal. I loved it.
Yeah, Ryan does all our artwork.
Oh wow! So you did that, eh?
Yeah, I do all the design and all the
Okay.
like video. Well, a lot of video stuff. I mean, I don't.
He's the visual guy in the band.
But well, then let me say to you that I really believe that is amazing artwork.
Thanks.
And it's really visually appealing, and it really it attracts you. It really does its job where what artwork is really supposed to do essentially is it really attracts you to hear what is on that album. Hey, it really
if
is
anyone
good.
needs artwork,
Yeah, it's free,
Ryan
freelance.
McArthur design.
That's what I do. That's what I do freelance on
But
the road
that was
as
more
well.
so illustration though.
Yeah. So I do like illustration and design and that kind of. But you know, it also ties into like a larger ethos as well with us, where you know the importance of like merchandise and the importance of, you know, like at the moment, like record low in like the music industry in terms of physically selling stuff. You know, and you have to have billions of streams before you're earning anything significant.
Yeah.
And you know, as a touring band, I think, you know, it's very obvious and very apparent, but I don't think a lot of people think about the fact that, like, you know, we still sell CDs. Like, you know, that we print CDs, we print records, we print T-shirts, and not only is it like up to half of our income on tour is from merch, but it's also where you like, you know, you go to the merch table after show. That's where you meet the fans, and like, so you know, I'm super stoked that I get to have an outlet as well for my art, but it's part of the larger thing that like it is important for us. Merch is important, and like having, you know, not just as an income stream, but like that's where you engage with people. Like, you know, people buy the CDs, like even if they don't have a CD player, they want to support you and they want to collect something. And if you put the time and love into creating those things, it's another way of, you know, it can kind of alongside the music, it's another way to kind of connect with your fans. And it's an important thing for us there.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that you guys sell CDs and whatnot. I mean, sure. I mean, I'm in a band, and we did an EP, and we never did physical CDs, and that really bothered me, and it still bothers me today. I mean, I might even.
Well, it depends if you tour a lot. Then do it. If we sell stuff when we're on the road, like. Maybe if you make some CDs and you have like a Cape Town show, you'll sell a couple, but like, if you like, we only are able to sell stuff because we tour a lot, like, because we never sell a huge amount at any one show. Like, you know,
Consistency.
We sold X amount over, like, I think we've done between 40 and 50 shows this year. So we've sold a fair amount of merch, but that's because there are a lot of shows.
Yeah.
You know, it adds up. It's
Sure.
not like at one show we sold 100 CDs. Like,
Gotta bust your ass to get the to get the job done. You know,
I do a fair amount of work with like some up and coming artists and stuff, and like a lot of them ask me advice about merch because of how we run our merch and stuff. And sometimes it is heartbreaking to hear, but I often recommend not doing CDs, specifically CDs. You know, I think there are other creative ways that you can
get your music
out there with, like, you know, like buy a T-shirt and get a free download.
Yeah,
you know, like
download
there's
codes
other
and
kind of
whatnot.
cool, quirky things that I think are way more sustainable for artists that aren't as active. You know, like as Ryan said, like the only reason it's worth it for us to print physical merch is because we gig the shit out of it.
It's really just for me, to be honest with you, because like I'm at that age where half my life was CDs.
Yeah, totally.
Until it all got taken away.
Should start
And,
collecting vinyl.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, vinyl wasn't even a thing until a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
Again,
made
you
a
know?
big,
So
big.
It's
comeback.
touch and go, regardless in this bloody industry. You never know.
I love
what's
selling
going on.
vinyl, man. Like every time we sell a vinyl at a show, because we've got two
See,
albums.
if I bought sorry to interrupt you, but if I had bought like, I will actually buy a vinyl of yours.
Hey, there we go. Always hustling. We're even we're selling stuff on the
podcast.
Is it Punk is Dead, right? Have you got vinyl of those?
No,
still?
Focus
I
Dead.
mean, Focus Dead.
Focus
sorry.
Dead was our first album. We haven't released vinyl, but
Okay.
we released Deja Vu on vinyl, and we've released Canieros at the back on vinyl.
Because I'm gonna start filling up these walls.
Yeah, do it, dude. We both collect vinyl.
I
I love
also
it.
want Peasant's new vinyl.
Yeah, that
as
thing
well.
looks
That
epic.
yellow
It
one.
looks
It's beautiful.
epic, yeah.
Sick.
But
they're also really rocking rolling with their merch and their marketing.
Yeah.
They're really doing a good job.
So I was gonna say, like, you know, with the vinyl, for me, like every time we sell one, I'm like so proud of it.
Yeah.
You know? Like when I hand it over, I'm like fucking.
And usually people want
music on vinyl.
People,
Yeah,
so
right?
cool.
People like usually want you to sign it.
Yeah.
And, like, it's- And you know, like again, like we were saying just now, like that interaction with people at the merch table is such an important. It's like almost
Absolutely.
as important as how well we played. You know, it's
Yeah,
like
totally.
it's just that real face to face with fans.
And it must be quite easy for you guys. I mean, you fairly you're very approachable. Let me put it that way. I mean,
We try be.
Yeah.
We can get a bit cranky after like 4 weeks.
Yeah, sure, but I'm sure you're cool with everybody who walks up to you and wants to buy a
dude,
T-shirt.
even
and
if you're
all
not feeling like you are, you have to.
you have to.
You
of
know?
course. It's
Like-
just the
I mean,
way it
there's
should be.
Yeah.
there are very few people who are just like terrible, but they do come, and then you can't get away from them.
Yeah.
There was this one woman in England recently who she just came up to the merch table and just started like insulting us, but in like don't take any offense, and then like insult you for something. It wasn't even to do with the music. It was something about South Africa.
Yeah, something to do with South Africa.
And it was like,
your accents make me sick.
Yeah,
some-
can I actually tell you a story?
Why? I'm trying to talk to people I
and
enjoy
then you
talking
can't
to.
you can't like walk away because you're just standing by your merch
Yeah.
table. Like,
I was working in the States. I was working at a place called Breckenridge, and so I was working as a cashier at one of those food courts at one of the base of the hills.
Oh, yeah?
And this woman came up to me and she goes, "Oh, that's a interesting accent. Where are you from?" So I said, "I'm from South Africa," and she switched off immediately. She goes, "You people," and I was like, "All right, well." I'm young and I wasn't involved in any of that, but I can understand. She wouldn't even talk to me. She didn't even buy anything from me.
Yeah.
She went to the next cashier. Crazy, yeah.
No, like I was saying earlier, because we're mostly dealing with live music fans or other musicians or music promoters. There's very few shitty people that go to shows.
Yeah.
I mean, you like people who love music and go to shows to support bands are generally the best people in the world.
Yeah,
in any country.
Listen, I mean, this is a ski resort where you have to pay quite a lot of dollars
Exactly,
to get
yeah,
there.
yeah,
exactly.
And they're all high and mighty with
Yeah.
their opinions going,
Yeah,
oh, I
totally.
don't like you South Africans because apartheid happened millions of years
Yeah,
ago.
and those
well, not millions ago, like 25 years ago.
those
but-
small amount of like it's really happened very seldom for us, and we could if we worked it out, it would probably be at shows where there wasn't a cover charge.
Yeah.
It would probably be at a show where it was like, you know, because sometimes you get paid from the door, sometimes
Yeah.
the club pays you directly, and like we never really know usually like but if it's not a cover charge, then you sometimes just have odd people in there.
Yeah.
Who are like,
Yeah, if it's not a cover charge and if it's more of like a pub rather than like a live venue, you know, that's where you find these like weirdos.
What's your preference?
What to play at?
Yeah.
Yeah, live.
Because I mean,
venues.
I saw a clip of you guys today playing at Splashy.
Yeah.
And that looked like a vibe.
Look, I mean, festivals are rad. Like they come around, you know. We've had some amazing festival experiences. Like I think some of the best gigs we played last year were at Mighty Sounds, one of this like amazing punk rock festival in Czech Republic.
Wow.
I mean, we played 2 sets on the one night. The second one like landed up with like Angela was in tears because it was so overwhelming. Like we were just like it was the last gig of like a 6-week tour. And it was just like this freak
like
turnout.
1:30
like
in the
if
morning.
it was a movie, it would be.
Oh man, it was like
written-
really surreal, and we were just like riding this like massive high. And but yeah, it's like, you know, those kind of things come around.
Yeah.
Like, but you know, we understand that they're like quite few and far between. But I think like a nice small venue, like not a pub. Like pubs are cool. Like the DIY thing's cool.
Yeah,
really, we enjoy that stuff. But like a nice kind of like intimate venue with like a rad, like packed,
just like
energetic
like an
crowd.
engaged audience.
Yeah, like, you know.
And you sometimes get them at like sometimes you when you get a good pub though, that is great.
Yeah.
When it's like when people are there for the music, and it's that, you know, I love the DIY like on the floor, you know, like there's no stage. And when you have the right kind of venue like that where the people are all there for the music, like I mean people can be having a good
Yeah.
time. We don't expect people to like be silent while
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
But if you get that kind of it like just basically whenever the audience is engaged, and we've had that, you know, we've played like to huge crowds where like no one's engaged, or to small crowds where people are engaged, and like everything in between. It really just,
Yeah.
because if you got like 10 people who loving it, it's only slightly less rad than like 2,000 people loving
Well, I mean,
it. It's really like
another reason why
it
I
is a
ask
bit more
is-
rad if it's 1,000 people, but it's like,
Yeah, I mean, another reason why I ask is because you aren't you involved in Sit the Folk Down?
Yes. Yeah.
So I mean, I used to know Kevin.
Oh yeah.
When he was in his previous career.
Yeah.
And he told me about the whole idea before it even launched,
Yeah.
and I was like, "You're crazy."
Yeah. Well, we're
And,
about to get crazy, but yeah.
I know,
Sit
and
the
I
fuck
was
down.
like, "That's I thought it was like that's amazing that I heard about it and then it happened,
Yeah.
and now I just saw the pictures from the Fuck Cancer show, and it's amazing."
Yeah. Sit the Folk Down's really grown a lot over the years. I mean, it started like just around 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And you know, the point of it when we started it was to create a platform for musicians to play in environments where like people are like attentive and want to listen.
Yes.
Because, you know, as a singer-songwriter, like those things aren't really that common anymore. Like,
Yeah.
You know, when we started it, there was like Alma Cafe and Cafe Rue in Nurtuk, and there wasn't even the Cafe Rue in town yet. You know, like there were very few places for singer-songwriters to play, you know, and so we were like, well, let's just
In
create
people's
these spaces
houses
wherever,
or
you
these-
know.
yeah.
And we actually landed up doing one with Stealth on that barge where I
Yes,
met you.
yes.
Yeah, that was amazing. Like,
Incredible.
so, and then over the years, it's just become this like fully fledged little business where, besides the pop up shows, we're doing a lot more of like full band stuff as well.
Yeah.
You know, like the Fuck Cancer show, and we do like these full band shows around Cape Town.
incredible, man.
And you know, we're organizing tour itineraries for touring artists. We're managing a few bands, booking for a few bands, and we've got some other really cool and interesting things in the pipeline. Yeah,
That's
but
awesome.
it's rad, and obviously it also helps
Yes, of
with the
course.
Shabs, you know, like
and all the rest of the artists as well.
yeah, and you know, all the groundwork that we're doing, like, you know, all the okay, how do I put this? Like a lot of the territory that we're covering, and a
Yeah.
lot of like the kind of doors that we're going through, weren't necessarily like open for us, but like, you know, other people like guide you in certain directions.
Yeah.
There are other bands like Hogoggity Hog and Fuzzy Gish who have done this and you know, have been super cool about handing that information over, and then those things have led to some really big things for us.
Yeah.
And our kind of like ethos as a band is like to share and community and like it's all about this like kind of family orientated
Okay.
thing, and you know, I hope that we can lay some good like foundation for other artists to build on and stuff.
Well, you're doing great things,
and
man.
introduce
Awesome.
and and Sit the Folk Down is very much about that as well. It's like, it did start in this very kind of niche little thing, but it's grown to be this like, let's just build this community of creatives. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be musicians, you know, like Ryan does a lot of our artwork and we've got other guys and helping out with all sorts of different things. And it's just about kind of working as a community, because that is something like we don't see much of overseas, we're in this cool network.
We grew up in that a lot, like that punk scene when like when we started going to shows would have been what, like 2001, 2002, those like those early days. Like, it was like, what's good for the scene is good for everyone kind of thing. And it was a great environment to grow up in, and I know it was the same in a lot of those scenes in different places, but it was like you had this thing, like with Captain Stu, like the first album we did was with Lee and Ross from Hogs produced the first album, and they were
sorry, on that note, I just see we're gonna hit another 30-minute mark. Can we feature a quick video, come back and carry on talking about that? Just keep that in our minds.
You choose the next video.
Okay.
Well, let's sing as we're talking about the old school days.
Okay.
Let's play a Tom and Philip's song.
Okay. This is Tom and Philip's song by the Shabs. We'll see you now.
Finger guns.
Philip and Tommy, they started a band in Tom's bedroom when they were 15. They played us loud and as fast as they possibly could until Tom's neighbors called the police. So they asked their friend Mike if they could rehearse in his parents' garage. He said, I'll talk to my mom and my dad, but only if you let me play in the band. But Mike couldn't sing, couldn't play anything, but they still let him in because they knew that none of this matters as much as we think it matters, as much as we thought it mattered when we were young, when we thought everything mattered much more than it does. So Philip and Tommy and Mike started writing a couple of songs about hating the man, hating the cool kids and the cops, about how their mothers and fathers and teachers just can't ever know what it's like to be 15, misunderstood, insecure and alone, about how the world has forgotten us all, about all the things they think will make us happy don't matter as much as we think they matter, as much as we thought it mattered when we were young, when we thought everything mattered much more than it does. Philip and Tommy and Mike always thought that they'd tour around the world, playing their music to thousands of fans who would scream for one more as they walked off the stage. But they never left their hometown and broke up after 3 or 4 years of playing house parties, scout halls and high school talent shows. But they made us sing and throw up our fists, and just for a second they made us feel infinite, like we belong, like our salvation could be found in a song. They helped us figure out the right from the wrong, and just for a second they made us feel like this matters. 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 It matters to us. They made us feel like this matters. That it matters to you. They made us feel like this matters. When you stand in the crowd with a smile on your face and your fist in the air, they made us feel like this matters. It matters to us. They made us feel like this matters. That it matters to you. They made us feel like this matters. When you stand in the crowd with a smile on your face and your fist in the air, it matters as much as we think it matters, as much as we thought it mattered when we were young, when we thought everything mattered much more than it does.
All right, that was Tom and Philip's song by the Shabs. Dudes, it's been so cool having you guys here. And I just want to apologize to Ryan quickly. I didn't mean to cut you off at the end there. It was
No
just a
worries.
camera vibe.
No worries, dude.
But we were talking about like a community, keeping everybody together, etc., etc. But I want to hear a little bit about Tom and Philip's song.
Well, like I was just saying, John was talking about how with Sit the Folk Down, he wants to build this community of people helping each other and kind of, working together to build up a scene. And we were saying how, that's what we grew up with. When we were kids and we started playing music, we looked up to, like Hog Hogly Hog, as well as, like Fuzzigish and Rudimentals. And, there were a bunch of bands that were really, that was what we were aspiring to do. And those bands all ended up helping us, and we hope and have tried to help other bands over the years. And specifically, Tom and Philip's song, it's a song about starting a band when you're a teenager, and like that love for music and that like enthusiasm. And the title is a reference to the John and Philip song, which was a Hog song, or super iconic.
Sure.
That was the song that everyone would get on stage and
Yeah.
sing. It had like this anthemic kind of sing-along chorus. So, that was amongst. I think there are 2 other Hogs references in the artwork of the album as well.
Yeah.
But like they were a huge band for us, and
Sure.
Yeah. And a cool little thing for us is that Lee, who played trumpet in the Hogs, came and played trumpet on that song on the album.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
awesome!
So-
as well as another 3 songs.
Yeah.
He played
But
trumpet he played trumpet on 5 songs, didn't he?
yeah, he played quite a lot.
Yeah.
But the Hogs one has this like kind of cool muted trumpet thing going on in the bridge, and we were like, let's get like a reference to
That's
that
awesome,
on the song. So it's quite subtle, but it's there.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, it's a cool little-
the guy we recorded with, Simon Ratcliffe, Fuzzy, a legendary South African engineer, musician, just phenomenal, and just like a great guy too.
Such a good dude.
Just a great guy too.
He was the sound engineer that did that Hogs album, Driving Over Miss Davy. And I remember him telling us, he was like, "Oh, guys, I'm using the same snare reverb unit as I used on that song." It's like, so a lot of this album, a lot of the theme was like
The geeky similarities. No, I'm just saying like the same.
Yeah.
No,
I
it was-
know guys like that. Like I really want to. I'm using exactly the same.
to like
effect, etc. Yeah, that's cool.
Well, it
Sorry,
was
carry on.
No, a lot of it was about that nostalgia for, like the album cover artwork. It's like, a teenage kid like on his bed, like, listening to music, like kind of it was kind of that time, especially for musicians, but like any music fan, you got that time when you really like realized, shit, there's music out there like for me. Like not like my parents' music or like the music on the radio or the music that like everyone likes. There's like there are these bands that then this is like, you get that like. And that was kind of a lot of the feeling that we wanted throughout the album. I mean, some of the songs are nostalgic, some of them are not nostalgic at all, but like a lot of them just follow this sort of either like thinking back to that time or, coming from that time to like the present time, like how, things change.
I wanted to say, I love the way you guys tell a story in a song.
Yeah, that's like, I think lyrics are a strong point for us, it's something that people quite early on in the band's existence were like responded to that, and then we were like, okay, cool, we got to keep this consistent. And I find like a couple of our songs are like about specific things, and a lot of them aren't, but there are certain things within that you can kind of relate to, and you can people pick and choose what it means to them and stuff. But like we do pay a lot of attention to our storytelling.
All the songs you write are great stories. And then I remember there was this one video you guys posted. I don't know if it was, it definitely was you guys, where it was a Christmas song.
The 12 drinks of Christmas.
Tequila.
5 gold tequilas,
We've done a couple of funny videos over the years.
That stuff for me is just like when you say there's levels to the shit, there's levels to the shit, and then like
but
I can guarantee you that you won hearts over so many people, me included, just by doing.
Dude, remembering
something
those
like that.
all I had to do was sing on the 5 cold tequila. John had to remember all like it was the most probably the hardest thing.
But you got to remember all the lyrics backwards because it counts down.
But just the initiative and just the way you guys do it, it's admirable. It's awesome.
Yeah.
People should take note and look at that kind of stuff and be like, wow.
Yeah, I think
That
over
was-
the
that
last
was
three
fun,
years, I think we've done it 3 times now. We do like an annual Christmas show.
Yeah.
You know, where we try and get people to bring some toys with like a bit of a charity aspect,
Yeah.
and we hosted in a really good friend of ours' garden in Nurturk, and we just have like a braai and some bands playing, and it's all very much based around like our community of musicians that Sit the Folk Down work with, because Sit the Folk Down originally started the show concept, but the Shabs have done all of them, so I guess it's much of our vibe as it is, but like. You know, it's really like about all the bands that we just like spend a lot of time with and work together with, and just like having an end of the year kind of like, well done guys, let's have a braai. And then that little video, we did it. We actually played it the year before we recorded it. We and then people thought it was quite funny, so we were like, okay, well let's do it as a little promo thing for the next year.
Yeah. I was saying to Grumble and Miggs and the boys on the last episode that I spoke to you. I think it was Gecko Lounge. We were sitting at the Gecko. Pinting some beers, and I was like, bro, I know you're involved in that Sublime tribute, eh? And even if it's one song, I need to get involved somehow, bro.
Please, dude.
Come on, man.
Please.
We took this trip to God Grove.
Nailed
Smell
it.
like a Lou Dog inside a van.
Yeah.
It's a great song.
I saw Mike Smith last night. He asked if we could have a meeting soon about it, so I'll bring it up.
I'm just kidding, man.
Dude, I would love. I'm like, I
still
love
haven't
new
seen
guys
one,
being.
to be honest with you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm mortified.
I love getting new like blood involved in that thing. Like, I mean, it's such a cool way for like new musicians to connect with guys who've just been like friends for like decades, you know?
Yeah.
And
it's a time when like, you know, you get to hang out with and jam with these musicians who you've always played shows with, but you haven't been in a band with them.
Yeah.
You know, and that's quite fun.
But I was saying to the guys from Alive at Midnight that the folk punk scene in Cape Town is super tight knit. Like everybody digs each other. Everybody is organizing like shows and.
This is what I was saying earlier. Like that's stuff that we don't really see that much elsewhere. You know, like we do obviously find these little networks and cliques and stuff, but they're not like as tight.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways, because the South African industry is so underdeveloped compared to like some other ones, it's been like a massive saving grace, you know, like just the sense of camaraderie and like working together and like, you know, doing shit like just by yourself. You know? We talk about that regularly as well. With Captain Stu, we were teenagers. We had no fears about booking a massive venue, aiming high, and like just if it goes wrong, I mean, fuck. And luckily it hardly ever did, but we were like, you know, let's go to Australia. Cool.
Yeah, dude,
you know,
that's insane.
and we did. And then
That takes so much
now
balls
when
as
we're
well.
trying and booking European tours, we're like, it's like, you know, heights of anxiety, like, you know, sleepless nights, stressful situations, like, you know, why are we getting worse at this? While like the older we get and the longer we've been doing it,
This tour now in March in Europe was the first tour we've ever done in Europe where we didn't have a car breakdown.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It's horror stories.
I think
So
as you
finally.
get older, you get less gung ho.
Yeah.
And you. I mean, at least for me, I tend to overthink things.
Oh, totally.
And usually the overthinking turns into stress, and then it turns into a disaster. But
we have like we've got this like kind of unofficial pact that like if we talk about doing something, we do it. You know,
For sure.
And
a great
even if it
attitude to
can't
have.
be can't be done, we try and get to a point of where we decide, okay, logically this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
you know, we have these ideas and we try and, you know, keep things interesting and creative and whatever, and you know, and momentum wise, you just got to keep piling that stuff on, you know.
It's one of those things where, like, you know, I honestly think something that's helped us is that every time we've been like, oh, dude, you know what would be cool? Like every time we've said that, we've tried to whatever reasonable degree, try to make that happen. You know, like we you know, and like for instance, in some we were like, dude, like we should totally talk Rambling Bones into doing like a split album, and we do it on vinyl. You know, because splits used to be a huge thing in the punk community. Like it was just cheaper. Like 2 bands would contribute to the cost of something, and it's such an alien concept now that when we try to put the songs online, like no DSP, like Spotify or Deezer, none of them would allow us to put it up as one album. So we actually had to split it up digitally. Like we have an EP called Deja, and Rambling Bones have an EP called View, because when you're not allowed to upload, you can't upload an album these days that's more than one artist unless it's
a compilation.
So what happened
It has
to
to have
Hot
like
and
over
Hurts with
4
the Love
artists
at
or something.
Midnight and Half Price?
They also had to split them up as far as I
Wow.
understand.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
you would if it's 4 or more, then it can be a compilation album, or if like every song is written by both bands and features both bands. You know, like I guess we could have like said that, but it wasn't. It was 5 songs that
It's amazing that they hadn't considered something like that.
Well, it was
based on the splits were back.
It was a staple and it was a thing, but it was only really a thing for alternative community. Most people have never heard of split albums.
You could probably also get away with it if you're doing it through a label or something, you know, who hold the account rather than like the band holding the account or something. But I mean, we don't like we that was just a wall we hit, and we were like, shit, that's weird.
But I mean, that was just an example of something we were like, hey, that would be cool. We want to do vinyl, like let's do a split vinyl, and we want to do it with Rambling Bones, like, you know, and you know, those kind of things, like, you know, that's what like I would almost give as like a piece of advice to bands. It's like, because bands always talk about that, like, oh, dude, you know, it'd be sick, like if we did this. Like, just try and make those things happen. Yes, like sometimes they won't work out, but a lot of the time, like, if you just keep following that, like those ideas, because you know, there's a lot of great ideas that like people just think, oh no, wait, no, like it's too much work or it won't work out or whatever. And we found that that's what's kept the Shabs going. It's like, dude, we need to do this, and it sometimes hasn't worked out, you know. And this year we had to make a lot of calls on stuff. Like, we really wanted to get over to this really cool stuff that we're booked for in America, but like we just couldn't make it work financially.
In the States,
And it was like,
it was like it was very heartbreaking.
Where were
situation.
you aiming for the States?
Well, we had kind of been booked for this festival in Boston. It was just one gig though, but it was going to be on the back of a run of shows in Canada, which we were really hoping happened, but they didn't, you know, and that's fine. Like, we totally understand these things happen.
But the fact that you consider
those doors are slowly starting to present themselves, and we're trying to get a foot in them. So like, I mean, it'll happen, you know. Like, I think consistency is key. I think that's where we start like panicking a little bit when things quiet down, you know, because we haven't stopped for like 3 years.
There's a certain energy about you guys that I get a feeling where you will work and work and work until it works for you.
Yeah, you know, and I've had this conversation with musicians that I deem to be very successful, and I ask, like, at what point does it give? You know, at what point do you like realize that, like, oh shit, like, it's given? And they're like, dude, I don't want to break your heart, but it doesn't happen.
Does it make sense to you what I've just said though? That like, you guys will just carry on keeping on until it's satisfying.
But I think I find
it's all satisfying for you. I'm not trying to
dude. I feel so fulfilled with how the Shabs operate and what we do and stuff, and I feel like I get to assess that a lot when we're on tour. You know, like when you're so far from your comfort zone, and you really get to look at things from like a completely different perspective, just so you like don't have a panic attack or a fight with someone or whatever. And you just like bring yourself towards yourself for a second, and you think like, okay, what is happening right now? And you start seeing things from perspectives like that. You actually realize how grateful and how lucky you are, you know, as challenging as it might be. I mean, we've got the story from our tour last year. We went to Europe, and we, like, through a friend of a friend, we borrowed/rented this like secondhand van for a 6-week tour. And on paper, it was going to be like the best thing. It was like, we got this big van which can carry all our gear. It's going to be the most comfortable ride, super affordable. And it broke down on the first day of tour.
Before the first
show, on the way to like play like a really kiff slot on a Friday night at this like festival in Germany, you know? Like it was our our biggest paying gig, and a rad slot at a festival.
Yeah.
And we broke down on the side of the German Autobahn, and and it happens, and you kind of think, okay, shit, this has happened. First things first, let's get this car to a mechanic, and then we can figure out what's happening. It took us like 5 hours or something to
even just get someone to
stop
help us.
Yeah, to stop and help us, because we weren't registered with the kind of the equivalent of the AA.
Yeah.
And the car was from Czech Republic, not from Germany. It was just like this
calamity of
it was this
errors.
complicated thing, and now we've got this car that belongs to a friend of a friend. We become good friends with the guy, but like at the time he was so kind enough to like kind of rent his car.
He's
to us.
actually still friends with us, even though we broke his car.
And now we've got the car like
kilometers from us.
1,500 kilometers away from where the
Shout
dude
out to
lives.
Jan, he's a legend.
Holy crap.
You know, and like there's certain moments in those situations where like there are three of you and you're on this car and you just got trucks screaming by, and like the situation is just so stressful, and you kind of like keep having to like refresh your brain and be like, okay, wait, what's next? You know, like what is the next thing? And we didn't panic, you know, and like that I felt like that was a big moment for us as a band, because that was a situation that could have broken us, like completely destroyed our tour.
Yeah, we hadn't
The
even
tour could
started
have-
the first gig, and it was a 6-week
we didn't
tour,
make
and-
the festival because we were trying to
That was
work
going to
ahead
be
of time.
my next question: is did you actually eventually make?
And I'm pretty sure,
the
I
show?
think we worked out that is the only time the Shabs have ever missed a gig. Like
Oh, wow.
in whatever, almost 7 years that we've been going.
It was a hardcore situation, and like, you know, it very easily could have we could have just been like towel in, like, you know, this
Yeah,
we
and it
can't
was
do
it
this
was
now,
a big.
you
It
know?
was
Yeah.
Also within our character, we got to phone this guy and be like, dude, we got your car. It's broken, but we've got a tour to do. You know,
Yeah.
we got to rent a new car. We got to make it back.
Because once you're there and you've paid for the flights and you've got these things lined up, like you're so out of pocket because you haven't started gigging yet.
Yeah.
Once you start gigging, you've got something you can. So we were like, we couldn't just like throw in the towel because we were like this much in debt, you know.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
we
literally
knew
had a
that by
couple
the
of
end of the
$100
tour
grand.
we would be able to like cover whatever's. But so then we had to borrow. Like luckily there was someone back here who's helped us out loads. Absolute legend of a human being, and you know we gave him a call and said, listen, can we borrow? So now we had decided, okay, let's go more into debt, you know.
Yeah.
So just rent a car that we can try fit the stuff in,
That's nuts, man.
you know.
luckily
You've been through the ringer, eh?
yeah, we were kind of near an airport, so Ryan managed to get like an Uber to the airport and go and sort the car out. And then like the tour just like was incredible, you know, and we had the best time, and like there were all these complications around that one thing still later on in the tour that we had to worry about because we couldn't drive that car into the Czech Republic. We could only rent it for a certain amount of time before like this threshold of like more payments and stuff. And as these things start going, we're like, okay, fuck, we got through that. Anything else that happens now is like fucking piss, you know? Like
Totally.
whatever
And how
happens.
did the rest of it go?
And it was
Like,
it was the
great.
best,
Breeze,
dude.
first day, absolute mess.
Yeah.
But the rest kind of like went, okay.
Yeah.
Because
Wicked.
also in that situation, we were already exerting ourselves. We had just flown to Prague through Dubai, so that was a long travel. Then we got straight on a train to Brno to go and fetch the car, and then drove it back to Prague and then slept there. Then the next day we drove like 8 hours to Hamburg to go fetch our drummer. And then the next day we're like, okay, cool. Now we're going to drive to this festival, which was a short-ish drive, play the festival, and then drive to Freiburg, which was like 6 hours through the night, so we could get to
Fuck me, dude.
one of our good friends' place, so we could be at this festival in Switzerland the next morning on time. So the whole thing was already like this massive complicated
already
situation.
Jeez.
And then this happens and it was just fuck. Okay, anyway. But then we got the car. We obviously couldn't play the festival, so we were like, let's just drive through the night to Freiburg, go stay with my mate Dave.
Got there like 5 in the morning.
We got there at like 5
Thanks,
in the morning.
Dave.
He's like opens up for us, beers in hand. We're so happy to be there.
Wicked.
We just got pissed at like 5 in the morning.
Lovely.
Slept for like 2 hours, woke up at like 10 or 11,
Happy as fuck.
went through to Switzerland to go play this other festival, and then just got pissed again. We got pissed
so-
like twice in one day because we were just so amped to like be on tour, you know?
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
it was really fun.
That sounds like an absolute nightmare
Yeah,
start.
but
I don't know how I would have handled something like that. I mean, I spent one day in Joburg and I was pulling my hair out. But But so guys, what's the plan? What's happening? The remainder of the year. What's happening? New music. I mean, obviously you've just released it. I'm not expecting you to drop anything now. But so tell for your fans what's happening.
We're currently working on. We're gonna hopefully have another music video out. We've got quite an ambitious video that we're gonna hopefully start working on soon. Because most of our videos have been super DIY, as you'll see. We've had the privilege of working with some amazing people, but we've got about 3 or 4 videos that are just made out of cell phone footage. So that's also something.
Listen, I'm not adverse to those kind of things.
So we've got kind of an ambitious one coming up where we want to actually have a narrative and that kind of stuff. We're going to be doing some shows in Cape Town. We've only done 2 in Cape Town this whole year. 3. Yeah. So we've got a couple more there. We're going to get.
There was the Fuck Cancer. That's the Fuzzy show, and then one other.
Our Cape Town launch.
There we go. Yes.
So then we're gonna have a couple more. We're gonna be down at Striped Horse again for all our fans down south, and we always love it down there. That's always a good
rad Aces and Spades.
Another Ace,
nice. Dukes of Note actually.
Yeah, I'll definitely make an effort to make one of those. I'm sorry I didn't make I had all the intention in the world to come to your Can You Hear Us at the Back with SDO and all those dudes.
Yeah, it's all
good. But I didn't make it, unfortunately. I managed to get them on the podcast.
Yeah. That's why they were late for a gig that I organized there.
Yeah, were they late for the show? Your guys' names come up a lot. I don't know. I feel like I've interviewed more punk folk kind of bands than like metal bands and all that shit, which is great. But thank you guys so much for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having us.
I really appreciate having you guys around.
Yeah, thanks what you're doing for music with this thing.
Thank you.
For sure, man. I love it. I like to build rapport with all the musicians around. So, like I was saying to you off camera, it's like so I don't have to worry about going to a gig alone. Yeah, I always know someone. So, any news, anything that you would like to plug now before we say goodbye?
No, I mean, we've got 2 cool shows coming up in August. One's in August, one's in September. 30th of August at Aces and Spades. 1st of September at the Striped Horse in Musenberg.
Wicked.
Besides that, we're just kind of enjoying our little downtime at the moment. We're working on a lot of admin. We've got like some really, really big opportunities in Europe again next year.
It looks like we're probably going to be in Europe for like most of definitely the first half of next year again.
Sure.
So we're just lining all of that up.
We'll be back up in Joburg and Durban probably November.
Okay.
I think. November, December as well.
Sweet. Look out for that.
And then just like check out our new album. It's the best thing we've ever done.
Can you hear us at the back?
Which isn't saying that it's monumentally great. It's just the best thing we've ever done.
I think it's great.
It's on Spotify and all of those things. You can pick up a CD or a vinyl at a show or from most of the vinyl stores.
And what's your Instagram handle?
The Shabs Band.
The Shabs Band, and then check out the Shabs on Facebook.
With some music videos, which there's a couple in here.
And inevitably other cool shit's gonna come around. We're just we're just totally decompressing from this 3 months of touring. So
for sure,
now we're slowly starting to okay, cool, let's wake up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you and I have been talking about this meeting today for quite a while. Actually, it's been months.
Yeah. So just keep an eye on our shit.
I think we were originally trying to come here in February.
It was before your UK tour.
It was before all of that touring.
But I mean, I at that stage was extremely terrible with my scheduling, and I still remain useless with my scheduling. I'm sorry to every single one who's been on the show. But this is the Shabs. That's John. That's Ryan. It's been super awesome having you guys
here.
Thanks, dude. Just from my side, From the Corner is a new sports podcast that I've launched with my buddies Gaz and Dan. It's going to be on the Papa G's House podcast. We're going to talk everything UFC, rugby, etc., etc. I'm still going to keep on talking to the awesome people like the Shabs. So that is John. That is Ryan. This is Papa G's House. We're out.
I don't want to go anywhere else. I want to go to Papa G's. Yeah, that's where we're going.